When it comes to the Islamic Republic in Iran, a lot of people talk about it as if it's a monolith with specific goals and views and strategies. And I think it helps more people better understand what's happening within the regime if they understand the different camps and their ideas and their philosophy and the methods that they have. That's why I'm going to introduce you to what I've came up with, which I call the Dorka scale, which is an easy way for you to picture where different camps belong on the spectrum. On one end, we have people who are a lot more jihadi, end of times, Mahdi, Durka minded at one end. The other end, which are people who are more pragmatic, I use the word pragmatic here, not meaning that their intention is to serve the Iranian people or to build the country. I say more pragmatic in the sense of they are more clever in hiding their radicalism and coming up with narratives and methods where is more likely to be able to fool Westerners. They try to use it to fool the Iranian people. Most Iranian people have realized that the moderates or reformers are a pressure valve that are supposed to give false hope for the rest of the regime to be able to continue to do what it does. But it is these people on this other side of the Durka scale, they sound less jihadi, less Islamic even sometimes. They sound more pragmatic, more modern, more moderate. They sound like that, but actually, if you look at their history, they are the most radical ones. And sometimes they're even the most responsible for the suppression of the Iranian people. I'll give you 4 categories of people and I'll put them on the spectrum. On the lower end of the spectrum, we have the so-called reformers or moderates. Again, there's nothing reformist or moderate about these people, but that's how they usually refer to them. So the people who belong in this camp are people like Hassan Rouhani, Hassan Khamenei, Mohammad Khatami, Javad Zarif, and the foreign minister Araghchi. These people's narratives usually suggest a more willingness to talk to the West, negotiate, slightly reduce the social rules, and many people fall for that. Historically, they have been proving to be used as false opposition against the hardliners, even though they have always been completely loyal to the regime. They sometimes sell them as opposition, which basically works as false opposition. They also work as a pressure release valve for the survival of the regime. They also work as a way to give Westerners hope that there's something to work with within the Islamic Republic, as a way to buy time for the Khamenei camp, which we will get to, so that they could keep getting closer to a nuclear bomb, keep supporting the proxies, and keep expanding their missile capabilities. But they have them there as a false hope so that they could buy time. Going from the low end to the second category of mid-low, these are the group of people who are more conservative in the narrative, even though they're all extremely conservative. I'm just talking about what they put out there. But they're still pragmatic. These people are motivated by wealth, power, and influence. They're not like what the people that I'm going to get to, which are more motivated by creating the conditions for the Mahdi to come back. These people see these religious narratives as tools, and they use them more heavily than the first group that I mentioned, the moderate reformers. But to them, this is more of a tool rather than a purpose itself. And in that sense, they act more pragmatically, in the sense that their focus is more absolute control over more state institutions, increasing their military power by having more influence within the IRGC, different parts of the IRGC. And they're also obsessed with having economic monopolies of different industries under their control. They're less pure with their ideology, more obsessed with control. So the people in this camp was Larijani. He's dead now. And then we have Ghalibaf. And now going to mid-high is the Khamenei camp, which might be surprising to some of you watching this, that they're not the maximum, the highest end of the Durka scale. This is Khamenei's core and the loyalists, the people who are extremely loyal to the guardianship of the jurist. This is the supreme leader's direct inner circle and all the people who are loyal to that. The obsession of these people is to just keep the status quo as it is. and making sure that the Beit Rahbari, the office and the residentship of the supreme leadership, and all the people associated with that maintain their power and influence both economically, militarily, and religiously. With Ali Khamenei, these are the people who had most of the connection, most of the emotional connection with regime supporters. If political power could be divided into economic power, military power, and people power, and IRGC has the highest military power and economic power, the Beit Rahbari, which is the office of the supreme leadership, has the highest people power. And with Ali Khamenei dead, we're going to have a hard time to transfer that bond, that emotional bond that people had with Ali Khamenei to Mujtaba Khamenei. They're trying their best right now. It's really hard to do that when Mujtaba Khamenei is nowhere to be seen. I saw some people within this camp are telling the people that this is actually by design from God because Mujtaba is missing and he's young. So basically, God is preparing the people to get used to the coming of Mehdi because Mehdi is also not present and we have to wait for him and he's also young. This was God's plan to allow Ali Khamenei to die and Mujtaba Khamenei to be the supreme leader so people could get used to seeing a young supreme leader who you have to wait for because he's in hiding. And this is just a practice run for the coming of Mahdi. So they're using so many different tactics right now to try to maintain that connection because that is the main power of this camp of people, the fact that the regime supporters have an emotional bond to this camp. But now let's go to the very high end on the Dorka scale, which is the Paydari front. Some people in this camp are Jalili as the main political person within this group. Mahsuli is the leader of this camp, but the spiritual leader of this camp, which I suspect some people within this camp see him as more of a spiritual leader than Ali Khamenei when he was alive, is Mahdi Mir Bagheri, which in one of my previous videos we discussed when I was talking to one of the people who was close to Ali Khamenei. We talked about the fact that this is a guy who's been quoted that for the sake of reaching their Islamic goals, even if half of the world dies, that's a price they're willing to pay for it. These people, they don't like the current regime. They don't like the Islamic Republic. They don't even like the name Islamic Republic because it has the word republic in it. And they consider the republic to be a Western concept and a sin. Because republic suggests that we have rule by the people. I know within the Islamic Republic, there is no rule by the people and the elections are fake, but these people don't even like the fact that we have elections. They don't like the fact that they have the word republic in the name. They consider the act of voting to be a sin because it's suggesting that we can have rule by the people. All rule should be by Allah. It should be Islamic rule. There shouldn't be any election. People shouldn't have a say. People shouldn't be able to decide the laws. Only God, only Sharia decides what laws we should have. So now if we want to look at everyone's position, given the current conditions, if we go through the spectrum, the lower end people, the moderate reformers are, at the moment at least, very irrelevant. Because Ali Khamenei was clever enough to use the reformers as a scapegoat and also as a pressure release valve. But because they were used in such a way for so long, now without Ali Khamenei, there is nobody to hold back the regime supporters who hate them so much. So the remaining part of the regime is not able to use them as a way to suggest that maybe the Islamic Republic is going to be more moderate because the supporters of the regime will not tolerate that. It's not just the anti-regime people who hate the moderates and the reformers. The pro-regime people also hate the moderates or reformers. So when it comes to political power, they have no military power. The IRGC hates them. They have very limited economic power. They do control certain industries, but not enough. But when it comes to people power, they are completely bankrupt. The mid-low people, which is the Ghalibaf or the Larijani people, they don't have enough people power, but because they have an image of being somewhat more pragmatic, they are the ones that are the only chance the Islamic Republic has to have any conversation with the Americans. Ghalibaf doesn't have that much of a people power. He has people who are loyal to him within the Ghalibaf camp. Right now, the regime is trying to lend him some people power by saying that Mujtaba Khamenei is approving everything he's doing. When I say people power, be careful. I'm not talking about the vast majority of Iranian people who are anti-regime. None of these people have any people power when it comes to that group of people. We're talking about the minority pro-regime people. They need some support from these people to be able to have any legitimacy. If they lose this last remaining group of people that they have, it's over for them. This is actually how you get regime change. This is what the different parts of the Islamic Republic is most afraid of, losing this last remaining support. And that, more than anything, will be responsible for them being toppled. If we go to the next camp, which is the Khamenei's core camp, their main figure is Mujtaba Khamenei right now, which we don't even know if he's alive. This camp has the highest people power among regime supporters at the moment, but the problem is they're leaderless. Mujtaba is missing, and without Mujtaba, they don't really have anyone else to come represent this camp. And I don't know how much longer they could go on pretending that Mujtaba is completely okay, but for reasons he can't even put out a video statement. They keep saying it's for security reasons that he's not coming out and giving a speech, but that doesn't explain why he couldn't just record a video of himself addressing the people. This camp right now is dealing with a leadership crisis. And then the last camp, which is the most Durka, the highest end of the spectrum, among your average regime supporter, they can't actually tell the difference between these last two groups. From their perspective, they're completely united. They're very Islamic and they're all both on the same path. But the Paydari camp is a competition to the Khamenei camp. And I suspect sometimes the Paydari camp sees the main figures within the Khamenei camp as their enemy as well. Not just the Ghalibaf or the reformers, but even the leaders of Khamenei camp is seen by some people within the Paydari camp to be the enemy as well. They have influence when it comes to shaping the narratives of the people who see themselves as loyal to the Khamenei camp. And these are the people who ask for the maximum. They constantly increase the expectation of regime supporters. And these are the things that the regime cannot deliver on, including punishing Israel and United States at a level that you only see in AI videos that these people make. The key thing that you need to take from all of this is that even though we had all of these segments of the Islamic Republic and they all had their own agenda and their own interests and their own abilities and their own power, they had this duct tape called Ali Khamenei that managed to keep everything together. Because it was this third camp that had the highest amount of people's support, and that is something that the Islamic Republic needs to be able to continue. All of these different camps, they all had to accept the direction of the third camp, which is the Khamenei camp, because they had a supreme leader with enough people power, with enough support, with enough emotional connection to the people, that when different people had different agendas or different narratives or different messaging, he would come out and give a sermon, and then everybody would have to get on the same page. But now we don't have Ali Khamenei, and Mujtaba Khamenei is not able to fulfill that role. This is what's causing the internal infighting to escalate to a level that we have never seen before. And understanding all of this is key to be able to make sense of different messages and narratives and the different actions that are being taken by Islamic Republic. Sometimes when one of these groups within the Islamic Republic does something, I see Western media says the Islamic Republic said this. They don't say this person from this camp said that and might not reflect these other people within the Islamic Republic. They just put it out there as the position of the Islamic Republic, which is very inaccurate. Now, by you knowing this, you understand the Islamic Republic more than most people. If you have any questions about this and you want to talk to me about it, check the link in the description to our discussion group. I'm there almost every day. And let me know what you think in the comment section, especially if you want to say, Armin, that was very helpful. Thank you very much. Leave comments like that. That gives me a lot of motivation to make more videos. My name is Armin Navabi, I'm Israel Chai. Long live America. Javid Shah. Paydari.